सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Happy Mother's Day. And before we proceed with the discussion on the topic that Neelam has given me, I want to read for you a poem in Gujarati, which I will try to translate. Difficult to translate, but we will try. The title is Jananini Jod Sakhi Nahi Jadere Lod. That there is nothing equivalent to, nothing comparable to the mother in the whole universe. And then the poet describes various things which are wonderful by themselves, and still they cannot compare with the mother. Says, look, how about the shower, the rain is sweet, rainwater is sweet and delicious. But then my mother is even sweeter than that, more delicious than that. There is no comparison to the mother. Prabhuna prema tani e putali relo. She is nothing but the embodiment of love which the Lord has created mother as embodiment of love. And she Jagati Juderi, she belongs to a category altogether different from what is there in the world. That's how the Lord has created her. Her eyes are full of ambrosia, and her words are full of love. There is no comparison to the mother. Her hands are like those made of diamond, and her heart is like the current of the spring. No comparison to the mother. The mother's milk is even rare and not available even to the devatas, to the gods. And her lap is like the one that is her lap is that which is sprinkled by the moon himself. Her finger is the support of the whole world. The finger is the refuge of the whole world, because the child walks with. And what all desires and ambitions she has for her child in her heart. Her mind is always wandering here and there in thinking about the well-being of the child. And her breath, or prana, the breath, is like tied up with every moment, because it is only dedicated to the child. A silent blessing always emerges from her heart. And her gift that she distributes is priceless and boundless. Boundless is a gift that she distributes to everything. Gift of love and care and blessing. Even the Mother Earth may be thinking about my mother. Even Mother Earth also may be shivering, because earth is supposed to be firm, my mother is even more firm than the earth, and the heaven earth also cannot compare to my mother. The waters of the Ganges, of course, are very holy, and it's a great blessing of the Lord. But the waters of the Ganges, they always are at tides. Sometimes they are plenty, sometimes they are reduced, depending upon the season. So waters of the Ganges also go up and down according to season. But the flow of love, which is from the heart of my mother, it never varies. Even the cloud, it's a great blessing that the cloud rains, but then the cloud rains only now and then. But then the love that rains from my mother is around the year. Even the moonlight also, which is a great blessing also, is now and then. But then the brightness of the moonlight that emerges from mother, it never ceases to be there. There is no comparison to the mother anywhere in the whole universe. This is what one of the Gujarati poets said. It's a very famous poem in Gujarat. So I thought we will start with this, complimenting all the mothers for what you are, and which is for me a matter of inference or imagination as to what a mother is and what her heart is. Unfortunately, we took it for granted. As we were growing up, we never really had a value for what the mother was, because she was always there. Our mother never worked, she was always at home and busy with her chores. Not that she had a lot of time for children, because we were several of us. And not that I always was with her, but there was always an assurance in her heart that she's there. When you come home, she's there. And so it was not necessary that I should spend all the time with her. Always there for the child. And I guess we benefited from her love and care, but never really appreciated that. Never made a note of that. And that is how the mother is. When I do a small little act, then also I expect a certain amount of appreciation. Some reward is expected, even for a small act of kindness I may do. And she was just embodiment of kindness and never expected anything. Otherwise we would have known. If she declared what all she is doing for us, we would have known. We never knew, because it was very silently done, without any expectation, selflessly. So mother is an embodiment of selfless love. And even though she may be busy with all her chores, a part of her mind always is centered upon the child. Wherever the child will be playing here and there, but then we are always connected with the mother. So it's a great privilege to be a mother, really. It's the unique creation of the Lord. This is one of the poets, but many poets have sung in every language, the glory and wonder of the mother. So mother said there are many things there today on. So mother is called Ma. And Ma stands for kshmā. Kshmā is also the name of earth. Kshmā means forgiveness. And name of earth is kshmā. One of the names of earth is kshmā. Because earth is the embodiment of kshmā. Earth is embodiment of mother, and earth is the embodiment of kshmā. Kshmā is generally translated as forgiveness, but forgiveness involves, in fact, there cannot be true forgiveness unless there is compassion. Forgiveness is not an act. It's not some words that I forgive you. Forgiveness is not the name of an action. It is the accommodation that results from large-heartedness, where forgiveness should better be understood as accommodation. Like space accommodates anything and everything that is there. So also, kshmā means accommodating, whatever that is. So earth is embodiment of kshmā, accommodation, forgiveness, and also forbearance. Regardless of what the children do to the earth, they keep on abusing her in many ways, but she never retaliates. We inflict many wounds to the earth, and she heals them herself without retaliating. Not only that, but always giving plenty. So this is earth, this is mother, an embodiment of kshmā, embodiment of forgiveness, embodiment accommodation. So if we have to look for an example of kshmā, of forgiveness, mother would become an ideal example. Because what is meant by kshmā or forgiveness is to accommodate. Even word accommodate also is not adequate. Is to lovingly accept the shortcomings and defects of others, as a mother does. Lovingly accepts. Because when you accept, normally there is also a sense of obligation, that obliging somebody by accepting their limitations and faults. But in mother, there is never a question of a sense of obligation that she is obliging the child. Child is simply accepted as it is, and with all its virtues and limitations. Perhaps mother does not even see any limitation in the child, because that is not how she looks at the child anyway. She doesn't look that as an item of utility. Maybe once you grow up, then those things may come. It's not that the child contributes something that the mother loves. It is not judged based on what it contributes. It is simply based on the fact that it is. That all the child needs is just to be there, to be showered with love and compassion and care. And therefore there is no condition involved there, no expectation involved, no sense of obliging involved, perhaps not even effort involved there. It's something that is flowing naturally. So we can take some lesson from mother as to what is meant by kshmā. Our Puja Swamiji used to, like to translate this word kshmā as accommodation. Kshmā is generally translated as forgiveness. And maybe a right translation. But the way we understand the word forgiveness always involves a certain amount of doing favor to somebody. When I forgive somebody, in my mind there is some kind of a sense that I am obliging somebody by forgiving them. Whereas I should have retaliated, and I'm not retaliating, I'm forgiving you. Whereas it is quite in order for me to punish you, to retaliate against what you did, and I'm not doing it. If that is meant by forgiveness, that is not what is meant by forgiveness, should not be meant by forgiveness. Yes, kshmā or forgiveness is possible on the part of a person who is able to retaliate. If you cannot retaliate and therefore you do not retaliate, it is not kshmā. When somebody does something to us which is painful, then the immediate tendency to retaliate. If someone inflicts pain upon me, then my habitual response will be to inflict pain upon that, in return. That is called retaliation. But not to retaliate also involves a lot of forbearance, to bear, to put up with the things. But in kshmā, there is not this idea of putting up with things. I'm not putting up with somebody's limitations and defects, which is a good thing to do, of course. But I accommodate them, or I gladly accept them. In accommodation also, there is a sense that this person is such and such, and that I am accommodating that. But a graceful acceptance comes from a true understanding that a person has limitations or shortcomings, that a person even has defects, let us say. There may be something hurtful or harmful in that person also. If that also does not cause in me a flutter of reaction, because I do not see any fault of that person in that, you understand? That person is ill-natured. And normally we blame that person for being ill-natured because the person is supposed to be good-natured. But when I do not blame that person, recognizing that being ill-natured is not something of the doing of this person, it is not that a person is deliberately ill-natured, deliberately an angry person, deliberately ill-natured person. That has just become a habit. His prakriti has become the habit. Prakritim yanti bhutani. Lord Krishna says that all creatures are automatically controlled by their nature. And so what can you do? What can restrain to do? Meaning that even in an ill-natured person, even in a person who possesses some devilish tendencies, demoniac tendencies, if you blame the person to begin with, and then still accept the person, then it is some kind of obligation. Am I accommodating the person, forgiving the person? But if in my heart there is no sense of blaming at all, recognizing that the person is helpless in being what the person is, that even the evil tendency or ill-naturedness also is not a deliberate thing. A person is not deliberately ill-natured, not deliberately a bad person, just happens to be, for whatever reason. There are always reasons for things being what they are. That I may be an ill-natured person also would have its own reasons. Maybe my upbringing was there, maybe my karma is like that, maybe I inherited some of those things. But basically I am stuck with that. An ill-natured thing also is what I am stuck with, not that I have gladly invited it, I am gladly supporting it. And when I act as an ill-natured person, I am acting not deliberately, but I am acting under pressure. Something pressurizes me to speak something pressurizes me to act in a certain way. which of course is seen as an ill nature or improper behavior. But if you go to the person behind the behavior, that behavior seems to warrant a sudden retaliation from me. It warrants a punishment from me by the general laws. But then I realize that general laws do not take into account the fact that the behavior of a person is not deliberate, it is something that is determined by the nature, something done out of pressure. When you are a compassionate person, then you are a deliberate person. Because compassion is our nature. So as human beings, we are said to enjoy free will. But that free will is truly enjoyed when we are compassionate, loving, kind people. Then only the free will truly comes into play. When I act out of anger or jealousy, etc., at that time my free will is no more in play, because at that time I act under pressure. The anger or jealousy pressurizes me and makes me act in a manner which I later on regret. Meaning that whenever I act out of anger or jealousy, is something that is done under pressure and not done deliberately. This is to be understood. That all violation of values, we of course condemn people who are cheaters and who are dishonest and who are criminal, etc. We condemn them. And maybe that may be all right as far as the law of, interactions are concerned. But in ultimate reality, even a criminal also does not deserve to be condemned, because that person is not criminal by choice. If choice is given, everybody would be good person. If choice is given, everybody would be a kind and compassionate person. Even a person whom we call criminal, when that person has a choice, when does he have a choice? When his own little child comes before him. Then you see the love, emerging from his heart. At that time, he is the deliberate, he's the right person. That is his nature. There is no pressure at that time. In love, there is no pressure. So whenever we act, without pressure, that is acting out of our nature. And that is when we are loving, compassionate, good people. And everybody basically is a person like that. The core person is always a kind, loving, compassionate person. Even the core person in a criminal also is like that. Except that core person is so deeply embedded that usually he is not visible. That core person becomes visible in some unusual conditions, like when his little child is presented before him, and that time his core nature manifests. Otherwise, the pressures and conflicts are so many that his nature has no opportunity, in fact, to assert itself. So how should we judge a person? Should we judge a person by the core nature of the person or by the incidental behavior? That criminality is under pressure, that is incidental behavior. What is incidental is something that is subject to coming and going. In the past, we have given this example of a piece of sandalwood which is fragrant by nature. If this piece of sandalwood, if it is left in water for a few days, then you find that it stinks. Piece of sandalwood stinking. Because its outer surface has rotted on account of a longer contact with water. So what is stinking is only the outer surface. Thank God. The inner core still remains fragrant. If we judge that piece simply by what outwardly appears, what is outward manifestation, then we will conclude that this is a stinking piece of wood. But the person who knows the true nature of sandalwood, he knows what is there in the core. And so he rubs that piece of sandalwood against a stone. And when that stinking outer layer is rubbed away, removed, then the fragrance which is inherent becomes manifest. And so also any kind of evil qualities or tendencies may find in a human being, they are all superficial, like the superficial stink of that sandalwood. What is needed is to rub that sandalwood. Sandalwood can be rubbed against a stone. How do you rub this person that he has to rub? We can't rub him. However, if you undertake a program of rubbing against what? Rubbing against dharma, rubbing against goodness, then this superficial sting of evil will be worn out, will be rubbed away, and the inherent goodness will become manifest. So how should we judge that piece of wood which is stinking? Should we judge that it is a stinking piece of wood and throw it away? Or recognize that behind the stink there is fragrance, which is natural. The stink is something which is incidental. It is occasional. It is due to an extraneous factor. And if that factor is removed, then this incidental stink will go away and the core fragrance will become manifest. So also, in every human being, each one of us has, I guess not each one of us, I should not, that's a big statement, but most people have a varying degree of some evil tendencies there. Some kama is there, krodha is there, lobha is, something is there. Some raga dveshas are there. Which is why we stink. So stink that is emerging from our mind is a stink of anger and greed and jealousy, etc. So I may appear like a stinking person. Is that how the person should be judged? No, because this stink is removable. Even the most greatest cruelty also is removable. Because cruelty is not the nature of the person. All that has happened to this person in his or her life, he has never received true love, never received a true understanding. And therefore it is possible to transform this person. And round the world there have been a number of examples when saints have transformed even the most criminal people. In India, this became very evident when great people that were there 100 years ago, like Mahatma Gandhi and some of his disciples. There was one great saint in Gujarat, his name was Ravi Shankar Maharaj. This Ravi Shankar Maharaj only would walk bare feet. He had his own routine of reciting Bhagavad Gita every day and many other things like that. But he would deliberately go into the tribal areas where poor people are there, sometimes criminals are there. He would even walk fearlessly in the front of a gang of criminals or bandits who are known to be cruel. he would go to them. Normally, nobody would dare go there, and he would walk to them, confront them, and engage them into conversation. He may talk to them for the whole night and convince them about, the wrongness of what they were doing. His words were not just words. His words were the expression of his loving heart. That even these criminals or bandits who were known to be very cruel people, who would kill without a reason, can you imagine that this person would love them also? The reason why he was not afraid of them is because he loved them. And there is no fear when there is love. And therefore, whether those fellows are willing or not, he would force them to engage with him in conversation and convince them. To make them see that what they are doing is wrong. These are not words. These are words emerging from love, which is what would touch them. I am sure they must have heard many sermons in the past, and nothing happens. It is not just a sermon. It is where it is coming from. So, this great saint is known to have transformed many bandits and criminals who laid their arms at his feet and totally changed their way of life. How could that happen? Only if that person is not criminal by nature, he is incidentally criminal. By nature, he is a good person. And what he is waiting for is for someone to invoke that goodness. Now that goodness has become so deeply embedded in all this evil and criminality that you don't even see that. But in the vicinity, in the front of this powerful love, even their core nature would emerge. And they would recognize who they really were. And when you see what you really are, you want to be that. Nobody wants to be a criminal. Everybody wants to be good. Because you are happy only when you are good. That fellow may be successful in terms of robbing people and getting a lot of money and dominating and in the worldly terms. But he cannot be a happy person. You can be happy only when you are good. You cannot be happy if you are unkind. You cannot be happy if you are cruel or insensitive. Cannot be happy. Look at what all you have. A person can be happy only when the person is sensitive and kind and good. So this is what we can become, that because that happens to be our nature. That piece of sandalwood which appears to be stinking can become fragrant because fragrance is the nature. You take the piece of wood from some other tree and keep on rubbing, nothing will happen. It is not rubbing that brings about the fragrance, it is inherent fragrance that becomes manifest. And by rubbing, we are only removing the inhibiting factor. But if fragrance is not inherently there, then you can keep rubbing that wood as long as you want, nothing will happen. But because sandalwood is inherently fragrant, therefore the fragrance becomes manifest. All these qualities are very natural in Mother. And this is how each one of us has to become. Each one of us, And for that, this value called kshmā, which is translated as forgiveness, accommodation, or loving accommodation. Loving forgiveness, let us, qualify that. That this kshmā of forgiveness always involves goodness or love, involves compassion. There cannot be forgiveness without compassion. Then it will be lip service. But what if I do not have that compassion? Then fake it till you make it. Meaning that you act as though you are a compassionate person. And someday you will become compassionate because you happen to be compassionate inherently. So when we fake means when we pretend to be a compassionate person, we are tapping into the compassion which is ourselves. And therefore, what is right now pretending can become a reality in course of time because that is our nature. So kshmā, that everybody is a combination of virtue and vice. That is how Creator has created everybody. Nobody is simply an embodiment of virtue, nor anybody is simply embodiment of vice. Everybody is a mixture of virtue and vice, guna and dosha in various proportions. Like a rose comes with a thorn, with thorns. That's how the creation is. And therefore in kshmā, how do we relate to the person? And this kshmā becomes most important in relationships. Because certain relations are given to us. When I am born, I am already a son or a grandson or a nephew or brother or sibling. So many things I already am. I have not chosen those things. Meaning that we are born related. And as we proceed in our life, then of course we also create further relationships. Because relationship is a unique endowment that a human being has. There are no relationships in other creatures. Even between a mother and children, like a dog and cat, they have a relationship for a period of time. As long as children are infants and they need care, so long they are related to mother. Once they grow up, then they forget. Meaning that they do not have the joy of relationship. A human being has a unique gift of enjoying the joy of relationship. But like anything else, relationship does not automatically give joy. We have to work for it and make it a source of happiness. In relationship, all happiness is potentially there. But then we have to deliberately act and conduct ourselves in a manner that happiness which is there becomes manifest in the relationship. That you can enjoy any relationship. When we can enjoy a relationship with the dog and the cat and the pet, then where is the question of enjoying relationship with the human beings? But it's easy to relate to a pet because the thing does not react. It doesn't know our intentions. It only knows the biscuits that we are giving and that's all that it knows, and it doesn't know what's going on within me. It doesn't matter to that little pet. And therefore, pet does not react to us, and pet gives us unconditional love, which is what we are seeking and which we never get from anywhere. That's why pets are so popular. Because from a pet, a person receives, and once a bond is created. It may take some time to create a bond with that pet. But once that bond is created, you receive unconditional love, which is what the heart is seeking. Poor thing has never received from anywhere, And therefore now it is over with the world, over with the children and everybody else, and still that desire is not satisfied. So you have a pet. It's amazing how a little dog can give you so much nourishment. In terms of nourishment that we really need is love. But it is possible that every relationship can become a relationship similar to that with a pet. It's possible. But a lot of work has to be done. A lot of wisdom and effort has to be invested in order for a relationship to grow into a healthy relationship. There may be relationship, all right. But then anything in the world has these two aspects. It's like a double-edged sword. It can be a source of happiness or can be equally a source of misery. As someone asked this question, is marriage a word or a sentence? If marriage is lived in a mature manner, it is a word. Otherwise, it is life sentence. So any relationship can become a sentence. So to make it a source of happiness requires investment of wisdom and time and effort. Like for raising a plant, it requires investment. You cannot take it for granted. It will dry up. A plant also needs care. To water it, put some right manure, and do little things that you need to prop it. So relationship also needs a lot of care. And one of the important aspects to create harmony between the two persons who are related, an important value is kshmā or forgiveness or accommodation. Because the relationships can be an intimate relationship like between spouses or between parents and children, or another relationship like between friends, and even with the maid servant you have a relationship. We are related to the whole world really. But anyway, you can be related to colleagues, to boss, and to this, and everywhere there are relationships. An important value for creating harmony in relationship is this kshmā or forgiveness. Because the one I am related to is not going to be a perfect person. There is no perfect person. There is no person having only virtues and not vices or limitations and shortcomings. So everybody has shortcomings in varying degrees. Usually we take exception to that. You should not be like this, should not be like that. We want them to change, give up their shortcomings. But when you make a demand, the other person will not give. Why should I give? You give up yours. And stuff like that. It becomes a battle. But recognizing that the defects, shortcomings, or even blemishes that a person has are not of his or her making is something that they've inherited. See, when we are born with a certain nature. Each one has a different nature. And what determines that nature? Is our past karma that determines our nature. So when we are born with a certain nature, which is, it's called svabhava in Sanskrit, which is the result of our past karma. Meaning that I find myself having a nature, not that I have, I haven't done anything, at least in this lifetime, that I know to have that nature, good, bad, or indifferent. Meaning that if a person has some evil qualities in there, it is not their fault. It is not their making. It is something that they have inherited because of the past karma. And in spite of that outer behavior, the core person remains a kind, loving person. Because that is the core nature of every human being. Every living being, as a matter of fact, but every human being. And therefore, what should be our attitude towards these defects or blemishes or the evil aspects that a person has? Should we reject the person because of that? Should we judge the person based on that? If we may refrain from that, that's good. Not judging the person based on the outer behavior, recognizing that the person behind the behavior, the core person, is a kind, good, loving person. Then how do you deal with, Swami, all the external things? Look at the nature of the person, this behavior, that's all there. That's where kshmā comes. Kshmā means recognizing that the person is helpless in being what the person is. It is the svabhava, the nature, that compels the person to act in this manner. And therefore, we understand. In Vedanta, we have words called Satya and Mithya. It's a big thing, but the kindness is Satyam, the cruelty is Mithya. Mithya means incidental, something that is not inherent. And therefore, when we have the person, we have the whole package. When you have the rose, the thorn also is there. You cannot avoid that. And therefore, we gracefully accept. Large-heartedly accept. That is called love. What is love? Love is not the name of certain behavior or something. Love is this. Basically, manifests as an attitude that I am able to accept without reaction all the evils or the negative aspects of the other person. Recognizing that that is not the nature, they are there. That I do not judge the person based on that. I do not reject the person based on that. I do not retaliate towards the person because of that. I am able to maintain my kindness regardless of how that person. This is called kshmā. So kshmā enables us to retain our kindness. Otherwise, what happens is, if the one we are related to is unkind, then we are also influenced, we also become unkind. Meaning that we are then sacrificing our own happiness to remain kind in spite of the buttons being pushed, in spite of provocations coming from that person. Now that requires a very great large-heartedness. That person keeps provoking you and you are able to accept it because you know it's all mithya. The person is helpless. It's not its true nature. So indifferent to that. The extent to which we can cultivate this quality within ourselves, to that extent our relationship will be harmonious. And we have hundreds of relationships. In each relationship there is always a package where there is positive as well as negative. Not that you do not protect against the negativity. You may, but not reject the person because of that. Not have a grudge against the person because of that. Still retaining our kindness in spite of what the person is. By recognizing that the core person is a fragrant person. The sting is only extrovert, superficial. So this attitude, this approach is called kshmā or forgiveness. And the one who displays the kshmā is the one to be benefited. Because I am required to bring out my inherent compassion and kindness even in provoking situations, which is difficult. When things are going good, we are all good. When they are not going good, then somebody provokes us, we also. So even in provoking situations also, not to get provoked because I love that person. And my love is not conditional love that I love only if the person is like this. A mother, the child may have disability, and also mother loves and serves. We may avoid other people, but not mother. And similarly also people have disabilities. And lovingly we are able to. It's not an overnight thing, but this is our goal. Our goal is to become kind and loving people, even in the adverse situations. That doesn't happen right away. We also get provoked, and we also get excited, we also retaliate. But after the mind becomes quiet, we go back to that episode and ask our mind, hey, how you behaved, how you should have behaved. You reacted to the personality, you should in fact respond to the person behind it. Come on, mind, next time it happens, do like this. Mind forgets. When somebody pushes button, everything is forgotten. All the advice is forgotten. Again we look at, after the thing is over, again we review the situation and educate the mind. How you should conduct yourself. Next time. This may require 100 times. Habits are hard to die. As our once children displayed, there are 5 children, each one holding a placard. HABIT. The first fellow left, H fellow left. A bit remains. A left, bit remains. B left, it remains. This habit is something that doesn't go just like that, but it can go. So the stronger the habit, a greater the effort required to overcome that. But it can be overcome because, as we said, compassion is our nature. So cruelty has to go if you keep on asserting compassion. In the beginning, half-heartedly, grudgingly. And slowly it will become as genuine. Slowly it will start becoming genuine. As a result, over a number of years of practice, if you become genuinely compassionate, you have become Brahman. I'm telling you. Brahman means compassion. Absolute compassion is Brahman. Relative compassion is Jiva, but the absolute compassion is Brahman. That is our nature. And so this takes us to God. And then when teacher says you are Brahman, it's very easy for us to see that fact. So this is kshmā, or forgiveness. A very, very important value or quality to cultivate for our own well-being. We should know that we are not obliging someone else by following a value, which is what we often feel. I'm always telling you to, as though you're obliging somebody. But we are not. We are obliging ourselves. Because every time I tell the truth, I invoke the core person from me. You follow? That is Brahman. Every time I am compassionate, I invoke that core being, which is Brahman. So we bring Brahman or God in our life in this manner by deliberately following these values. Very rewarding thing. It may be painful in the beginning. Lord Krishna says, Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. That happiness that comes by the purity, because of purity of mind, because of clarity of mind, satvikam sukham, satvik sukha, which is which is very bitter in the beginning, painful in the beginning, because our natural tendency to retaliate and you have to hold that back. So this does require a lot of self-restraint, restraining our natural tendency to retaliate, which is painful. But ultimately, it is nothing but ambrosia, the result. Pariname amrutopamam. What tastes bitter in the beginning but turns out to be sweet. That's the process. So kshmā, mother is the embodiment of kshmā really. We congratulate you and pray that everybody cultivates this, and then all relationships become, sources of happiness. That is what the fulfillment of human life. A relationship is unique to the human being. And successful relationship is the fulfillment of life. Nothing else matters. Our Swami used to say, you can relate to anybody. You can relate to a retarded one also, and if you have determined to do that. So it doesn't matter what we are stuck with in relationship. It's up to us to make that relationship fragrant. Hopefully it should be a two-sided effort, then it works better. If we get a response also which is a similar response, then we are encouraged. Because we need encouragement. When we do something, even an act of kindness also, in the heart of heart, we need some reward. Although act of kindness itself is a reward, but still, since kindness is not very natural at this time, therefore I have to pretend to be a kind person, so I need some reward. And we restrain ourselves from seeking that reward and doing something because that's the right thing to do. So that's what causes pain. But then reward comes. Not as a result of doing something, doing itself becomes reward. So it doesn't matter whether somebody responds or somebody rewards you or not. So then you have conquered the thing. So that is on this Mother's Day, kshmā, forgiveness. So we'll conclude here, and if there are any questions.
Swami, the question arises on daily basis. You have kshmā. People sometimes